What if the Library of Alexandria still exists in a hidden vault, waiting for somebody patient enough to listen to stone? That's the question that followed me off a dawn flight into Egypt. Sand in the air and sea light pouring over the modern city like spilled milk. Alexandria wears time like a faded jacket. Tram rattling past Roman columns. Fishermen tossing nets beside concrete towers. A library with glass scales crouched where the old ones supposedly burned. Guidebooks say the ancient stacks went up in smoke a tragedy, so total it feels designed, like a warning. But elders back home in the plains say nothing ever vanishes. It changes lanes. A story that seems to burn is only crossing into another world. So I came with a notebook and a pocket drum. Because where I'm from, you don't walk into someone's house without a song. In native teaching, libraries aren't just rooms of books, they're people. Grandmothers, riverbanks, a hill that remembers your footsteps. You offer tobacco, you speak softly. I figured the same rules might apply to a city that once held the world's words. My guide, Sami, met me by the Corniche. He was all elbows and curiosity. "You want to see where the fire wasn't?" he said, grinning. We walked past the new Bibliotheca, a sun disk of granite carved with scripts like ripple Circadian. Greek, Cree-syllabics I thought I recognized. The new place hums with computers, but my bones were reaching for something older, something below. We headed toward the catacombs of Kamel Shakufa, into cool tunnels where stone drinks sound. Torchlight licked painted. Godsobek with his crocodile grin. Anubis. Black-end patient, above a sealed arch, a forgotten carving. An ibis, walking a line of stars. Thoth, the old keeper of knowledge, marching like he owned the night. Sami tapped the stone. "Roman," he said. "Maybe later." But the chisel marks looked older, as if someone had copied a copy of a memory, the way a song survives melody bent, spirit intact. Aruma led us to the Serapeum's broken columns, the place where Greeks married Egyptian gods into one body and called it wisdom. Beneath those columns, they say, were long galleries, a daughter library. Beneath the galleries, deeper still, were vaults. Scholars argue, but rumor is a kind of scholarship if you know how to listen. Wind shredded our voices. Dust stung. I laid my palm on a leftover block and felt a faint thrum, like a far drum under the floor. Sami's eyebrows climbed. "Metro," he joked, but he didn't laugh. A fisherman told us his cousin worked excavation for a new parking garage by Nabi Daniel Street. They'd hit a chamber and had to stop. Paperwork. Officials. The cousin could talk after dark. We met him behind a tea stall. He had the look of a man who has seen something that refuses to leave his eyes. "Books," he whispered in Arabic, then in broken English for me. "Not papyrus. Not like that." Stones with writing. Shelves of stone. Stone shelves like canyon ledges. Back home, our elders say some knowledge wants to be rock, not paper. Trees burn, skin dries, but stone carries memory under its ribs. The cousin described rows of tablets stacked like bread loaves, each tablet thin as a hand, etched with tiny letters that crawled like ants. Some were sealed in clay. Some sealed in something that looked like glass but wasn't. He and the crew were told to fill the trench and forget it. The city has a way of tucking the past back under its shirt. When it is not ready to show skin, we bribed a watchman, because that's how every documentary gets honest by midnight. And we walked into Earth. The air had that damp, old breath feel, like a cellar that remembers a wine. Down a slope, a cut rock door. Scraped, plaster. Sami ran his light along the seam and stopped where a curl of ibis feather had been carved so thin it looked inked. He touched it and the stone gave just a hair's width, a sigh rather than a move. We pressed. The seam widened. Cool air sighed from the gap, smelling faintly of resin and something metallic. Inside, the chamber spread low and long, a tunnel swallowed in darkness. The beam skated across walls, ribbed with shallow shelves. And there it was. A tablet no bigger than my palm, stacked among hundreds of its brothers. I expected hieroglyphs, but the lines were finer than any I'd seen minute script arranged in grids. Dots like starfields, tiny circles nested in each other. It looked less like writing and more like music written for stone to sing. I offered tobacco on the floor, because when a library opens its mouth, you don't take, you ask. In our way, knowledge isn't a trophy, it's a relative, with a personality and a temper. I tapped the little drum, felt the note roll down the shelves and back, as if the room was designed to carry sound like a river carries salmon. Sammy shivered. Here, that. The cousin stood at the doorway, sweating, eyes darting. "Quick," he said. "If someone comes, I pick the tablet at random, a dangerous thing. But sometimes the story chooses you." It was set in a thin frame of something like obsidian. My light showed patterns tightening toward the center, a spiral of glyphs converging on a single dot. The dot wasn't ink. It was a hole so small it swallowed the beam and gave nothing back. The spiral felt like water pulling my chest downstream. I leaned closer. The hole seemed to open. Later, Sammy would ask me what I saw, and I would fail at words. I saw a map that wasn't space or time, but the place where they knot together. I saw lines connecting Alexandria to Persepolis, to Yaxchillan, to a hill I know in South Dakota, where elders bury tobacco and listen to thunder. I saw routes the old librarians used when paper was a poor excuse for memory. Primera sa W. That the fire wasn't an N, it was a sleight of hand. When soldiers came, when zealots threw torches, the librarians pulled a trick older than conquerors. They moved the library sideways, not away. Sideways, into stone, sound, and patterns embedded in the city's bones. The tablet vibrated under my fingers, so slight I might have dreamed it. Suddenly I understood the ibis in the feather. Not the core, but a key. Sound locks, featherlight pressure points, harmonic thresholds. This vault wasn't guarded by soldiers. It was guarded by attention. You had to come correct, humble, listening, tuned. Footsteps thudded above the many. Too official. The cousin hissed, motioning us out. I slid the tablet back into its groove. The tunnel hummed once, like a throat clearing. We sealed the seam, dusted our prints, and rose into city noise as if nothing had shifted. But everything had. We sat on the curb, tea steaming in paper cups, traffic tidal. Sammy watched the bibliotheca's glass curve catch sunset, a bright eye in the evening. "So?" he said. "It's not gone," I told him. "It learned how to hide." He smiled without humor. "And now what? Back home we say, a story isn't something you own. It's something that owns you for a while, then goes looking for the next person." The Library of Alexandria still exists not as a single room stacked with scrolls, but as a network of tuned spaces and singing stone beneath a living city. Maybe beneath many cities. It waits for readers who know how to knock. It will not answer to conquest. It answers to respect. I mailed a copy of my notes to an auntie who teaches our kids the old songs. "If the library's alive," I wrote, "its first language is sound. Teach them to listen." She texted back a drum emoji and a coyote under the joke. A promise. In the new library the next morning, I watched students ripple through light. Eyes on screens, hands on books, voices low. Outside, waves wrote and rewrote the shoreline. Underfoot, an ibis walked a line of stars across stone, and somewhere below the city's ribs, the vault breathed, patient as an old buffalo, keeping warm the memory we keep insisting we've lost.